This episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/SOS to find more information. Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 633. Welcome in. Before we do anything, I got to tell you about today's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. How do you keep track of all your subscriptions? Can you tell me for sure how many subscriptions you have and who is taking money from you each month? Have you ever had trouble canceling a subscription or discovered you were being charged for something you didn't think you should be charged for? Well, Rocket Money can help you. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, I can cancel it with just a few taps. I have never had to get on the phone to customer service. Plus, they'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you got to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year. $720 a year on average saved for its members, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/SOS. That's rocketmoney.com/SOS. rocketmoney.com/SOS. All right. It is very, very early Friday morning, just before. It's 2:58 in the morning, 3 a.m. basically here in the Portland, Oregon area. I'm up early recording before work. I'm tired. It's been a long week. I don't know if people realize this. I work in HVAC installation, so I'm up ladders. I'm building air conditioning units and furnaces and ductwork and crawl spaces. It's terribly interesting and super fun. I don't know if you can sense the sarcasm, but it's what's going on. I'm doing that. I'm installing, which is basically like working construction, but I'm also training for sales. So I'm basically doing two jobs. Oh, and by the way, another podcast. So the podcast, HVAC plus HVAC sales training. It's so much right now. My schedule is insane. I'm tired. I've got a lot going on. I'm doing the very best I can. And I hope you're doing very, very well. I want to start today by talking about someone who is it's so weird to say, like one of my favorite players in the NFL who now no longer is an NFL player, which is very, very, I have mixed emotions. I'm very sad. And what's really sad about this player is I didn't really get to know them until the very end of their career. Of course, we're talking about the former Eagles center, Jason Kelce, now retired NFL player, Jason Kelce. I absolutely love this guy. He is just such a stand-up human. It's really sad to me I didn't get to know him again until the end of his career. I wish I'd known him the whole way through. And the way I root for, teams and the thing I root for in sports, basically, is human beings. I don't have a favorite team. I've never had a favorite team. I fall in love with people. And usually the way you fall in love with people is you get to know them, you hear their story, you hear their interviews, the way they carry themselves. And the more and more I heard Jason Kelce in interviews and on podcasts and interacting with people and talking about his wife, the more I fell in love with this guy. I really, really have. It's so sad. I got to know him and he's already gone, right? And like the last 2 years of his career is really when I got to know the guy. And earlier in the week, he had a long, epic, 40-minute, basically retirement press conference where he got in front of a microphone and frankly, very badly read a long-winded message about his career and thanking people, and he's openly crying the entire time. It's very messy, the delivery of his speech, because it's broken up so often with like long silence and pauses, and because he's crying, he loses his place in his reading very often. It's a messy 40 minutes, but it's a beautiful 40 minutes. I really, really, if you haven't watched it, I don't know that I recommend you watch the entire thing. I'm going to play some clips from it. But if you are interested after hearing this podcast, maybe put it on in the car when you're driving to work or something. Treat it like a podcast. It's very, very long. And it is often disjointed. But Jason Kelce is a player that I respect and admire so much. Sure, as a football player. Yeah, great football player, great technique, good leader, good center, all that stuff. But more than just a football player, I admire him as a person, as a father, as a husband. And his story is so cool, man. Like, oh my goodness, man. A guy who, Jason Kelce is the older brother of Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift, 3-time Super Bowl winner. Some people would say the best tight end of all time. I would disagree with that, but certainly one of the great receiving tight ends of all time. But I think Jason Kelce is the much more interesting and well-rounded person. I find Jason truly way more compelling as a football player, as a leader, as a man. And as he's giving this 40-minute, almost like dissertation, like it's just a lot of information. He's really talking and telling stories. And what comes out so clearly about Jason Kelce, and the reason why I love him, is his love for the game, for people around him. I really, really, I really was moved listening to him. And I want to play a clip more than anything else. This is the number one clip that really stands out to me. It's Jason Kelce talking about his wife, Kylie. And it's so clear to me, like, oh, this guy's awesome. Got a heart of gold. And so often with offensive linemen, man, like they're overlooked, underappreciated. And linemen, man, the guys that I got along with the best in football, I played quarterback. Offensive linemen were such a special type of human being. Like, I'm going to go see one of my former offensive linemen this weekend. Going to go visit him, hang out with him Saturday night up in Seattle, and then get ready to go to his wedding later in May. Like, that bond, quarterback to lineman, never goes away, especially, not necessarily defensive linemen, but offensive linemen. They protect you. They keep you upright. And you form a brotherhood for life, basically, when someone protects you that way, even at lower levels of football. And offensive linemen, man, are the people I gravitate towards. They are people who don't want recognition. They're in the trenches. They do a dirty job. It's a very difficult job. Anyway, I'm ranting now, but I want to play a clip. This is Jason Kelce talking about his wife, Kylie. Take a listen.
I won't forget the Eagles' Christmas party in 2014 and heading out afterwards with a bunch of my teammates to Buffalo Billiards, where my life would change forever. That night, I'd meet my future wife. I still remember the moment she walked through the door. The first instance is burned in my retina. It was like she glided through the opening, an aura around her. Then she started talking. And I thought, man, is this what love feels like? She was beautiful and smart, serious yet playful. I knew it right away. I think it's no coincidence I have enjoyed my best years of my career with Kylie by my side. Every accolade I have ever received has come with her in my life. She has brought the best out of me through love, devotion, support, honesty, intelligence, and of course, a swift kick in the ass from time to time. She has also given me 3 beautiful girls and a life that increasingly brings me more fulfillment off the field than it does on. We've had a great run, Kai.
Man, a line that stands out there, every accolade I have won was with her in my life. Kylie Kelce made Jason Kelce's life better. And that clip, man, first of all, you hear when he talks, right? There's these long, drawn-out pauses. He's collecting himself. He wants to cry. He's tearing up. That's a man right there, first of all. A guy who is in touch with his emotions, who isn't afraid to feel them openly, but also, man, the love for his wife. Like the way, I mean, I hope I have a wife someday. I talk about the way that Jason Kelce talks about Kelce. It's beautiful. It's so cool. I absolutely love that. Again, every accolade I have ever won was with her in my life. He makes it very clear. Hey, my life has been better ever since I met her. She elevated me. She made my life easier. She made my life better. I was more successful. Everything. We were a team. And it's so cool. I just really, that clip, man, is so touching. I really, really love it. And it leads me to another clip, which is just a monumental piece of information. I just, this next quote from Jason Kelce is huge. I think it's what we need to hear in our country right now. And our country is not even the right word there. I mean, like our society in general. This word right here, this quote I'm about to share from Jason Kelce, I absolutely love it. Take a listen.
I think one of the best things a person can be in this world is a father. A father who is present, loving, devoted, just may be the greatest gift a child could ask for in our society.
Man, it's really crazy. I heard a story literally yesterday, right? Today's Friday, yesterday, Thursday. I'm at work. A friend of mine had a really rough upbringing, and his dad was on really, really hardcore drugs when he was a kid. And the guy tells a story, and my coworker is telling the story, didn't even seem to realize how messed up it was, you know. Said when he was a kid, his dad was on drugs, and he went and would go doorstep to doorstep looking for dog and cat food so he could have a meal to survive. Which, like, it's one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever heard in my entire life. And I heard that, I'm like, you what? You ate cat food as a child to, like, live? And it made me feel really privileged. It made me feel really lucky. It was a horrifying story. And my friend had no idea, like, really how messed up it was. And it was dark. We were all at work like, bro, do you need a hug? Are you okay? And I tell you that to say that I look around the world, man. There are so many, pardon my French, shitty fucking dads, man. There are so many dads who suck and don't care for their kids and do a terrible job. And Jason Kelce, man, is what we need. That's the role model we need for our society. For young men out there, you got to put your kids first. You got to care for them. You got to be present. You got to be around. And it's easier for a guy like Jason Kelce, who's retiring young, who's got a lot of money. He can afford to be around a ton. But man, that message is so huge. Be present in your kids' lives. It's so like, hell, I mean, man, I really can't say it enough, like how huge that is. And that's the kind of messaging we need to hear more and more. And as I talk to my friends and I hear their stories, my friend eating cat food on a porch, that's one insane, extreme story. But it makes me wonder, like, all the other people around us, how many people have stories like that of negligent parents who did a bad job, weren't caring, weren't present. And the fact that Jason Kelce's talking about that, being open about that, being like, look, I want to be a great dad. It's a huge deal. Like I said, that's what we need, man. We need more people sharing that, talking about that, striving for that. And I look at Jason Kelce, man, and I see a guy who has so much love in his heart. It's amazing. It really is just beautiful. He's such a role model. He's openly crying. He's talking about how he loves his wife. He's telling stories about football, wants to be a great dad. I mean, man, like, it's beautiful. And I really, again, Travis Kelce gets all the respect and the love and the conversation because he's dating Taylor Swift. And frankly, he plays a position that gets the ball more and is talked about more, has a bunch of touchdowns and Super Bowl victories. But I think Jason Kelce's the catch. And it's really sad. I think the game of football is losing a really, really special person, as well as a great player. Yeah, the Eagles are going to miss their center. He's was one of the best centers in football. Sure, absolutely. But on top of that, it's the role model. It's the voice. And he's going to be a prominent voice in the football world for a long time anyway. He's got a podcast, New Heights. He's fantastic. But I just hope more people pay attention to him. Because the more I listen to Jason Kelce, the more I pay attention to him, that's a dude who's got it all figured out, right? Who, like I said, man, good dad, good husband, good role model. What else can you ask for from an athlete? And when I root for football players, that's what I look for. What I loved about Tom Brady was, sure, like he succeeded on the field. He delivered all the time, but it was a preparation off the field that I was drawn to, the way he carried himself. Jason Kelce's not Tom Brady. It's a different dynamic, but man, the person who he is off the field really, really speaks to me. He's a role model to me and the kind of person I want to be like. And so I'm going to really miss having Jason Kelce as a part of the NFL. And he'll still be around. He'll be a voice. He's probably going to work for some network at some point, I'm sure. He's probably the most prominent, maybe even most famous offensive lineman in a long time, if not ever, in the NFL. But the NFL lost a great one, a guy who played center for 13 years in the NFL. Do you have any idea how difficult that is? Like, I'm really sad to see Jason Kelce go, but I'm also really happy for him. He's going to retire while he can still walk without any insane injuries. I mean, he's been injured a ton. I still worry. I hope he can play catch with his kids when he's like 55 years old and run around a little bit. But I'm glad to see the guy go because I want him healthy as long as he can be and able to be a present dad and not have crazy health issues if he doesn't already. And man, oh man, I just can't say enough good things. I love the guy so much. And during this press conference, there's a couple moments that I thought about playing clips of. Like there's a clip where he talks about his brother and how it's crazy that Jason Kelce was drafted by Andy Reid in Philadelphia. And then 2 years later, his little brother was drafted by Andy Reid in Kansas City. And part of why Andy drafted Travis Kelce, the tight end, was because the older brother Jason had been such a good role model and vouched for him. And when you hear Jason talk about his little brother Travis, man, dude, it's so, like I said, he's full of love. He loves his family. He loves his people. And I'm a guy, my little brother, February 8, 2016, my little brother took his own life. And we worked together every day. We'd played Halo night together. We played Halo once a week together. We were insanely close, me and my little brother. And so to see a guy who is such a good brother, I find it inspiring. It makes me really nostalgic. I miss my little brother a lot. And it speaks to me a lot to see a guy who is such a great older brother. It's awesome. Who roots for his brother, who loves him, who tears up when he talks about his little brother's success. That is so cool, man. I love that. And I can't say enough how much I respect and admire Jason Kelce. I really do. And then one other story he talked about, or told, I guess, during this 40-minute rambling, beautiful, messy rant, is he talked about his journey from 2016 to 2017 as a football player and how 2016 was basically the worst year of his entire NFL career. And 2017 was his best year of his career because he took the lessons, he learned from his mistakes, he tried to grow. Basically, Philly, after 2016, wanted to get rid of him. They tried to trade him away. They couldn't. They thought about cutting him. He was on the chopping block for sure. So 2017, after having an awful year in 2016, Jason Kelce had to come out and have a great year and really deliver. And he did that. He learned from his mistakes. He worked on his technique. He got better. And that journey is so cool. A guy who got to the edge and almost got ejected from the NFL. Not only sticking around, but becoming one of the very best in the position at center in the entire league. It's a beautiful story. And it's a guy who clearly worked incredibly hard off the field to get better on the field. And I love that. I love the story of a guy in the offseason going to work and saying, how can I do a better job? What can I do to elevate my career? And it turned into a 13-year NFL career, which is just really impressive. To play offensive lineman for 13 years in the NFL is such a difficult task. A guy who was a walk-on in college, who became one of the best centers in the NFL. Unbelievable story. You really, really love to see it. And I don't know, man. I just love the guy. I love the cat so much. To see him, his love for his brother, his love for his wife, his love for the game, his love for Philadelphia. Jason Kelce also went on a rant and said, like, hey, look, Philadelphia is going to make it really tough. When you suck, for lack of a better term, they're going to let you know. They're going to tell you suck. But Philadelphia is also the kind of place where if you fight hard, you show grit, tenacity, you push through, and you show fight, man, that's a city that will have your back and love you forever. And Jason Kelce is a Philadelphia legend. There's no doubt about it. What a special human. I encourage you, if you're not very familiar with Jason Kelce, go get to know him. Go watch some videos of him. Go see examples of him as a father, talking about his life, talking about his wife. I mean, man, what a lovely person. And I'm really sad to see him go, but again, I'm really glad to see him retire while he can still walk, and hopefully when he's older, still has mobility and can walk around and hang out with his family. But tip of the cap to Jason Kelce. We lost a great NFL player and an even better human this past week. So, man, I love the guy. I'm rooting for him. I hope he has a ton of success in the podcast and media world. I'm sure he will. But that's a guy that more people should listen to for sure. Jason Kelce is a role model to me, and for good reason. I just think his heart is in the right place. He cares about all the right stuff. And man, Jason, tip of the cap. You're going to be missed. I love you, dude. And what a great career he had. And what an even better human being he is. Just, again, what a role model for young men out there. I think showing an example of what your life can be like and should be like if you do the right things and care about the right stuff and have good values. And oh, man, I love it. I love it so much. All right, this will be jarring. I don't know how to transition any other way, but I got to talk about our second sponsor of the day. Factor Meal Kits is offering 50% off to listeners of this show. Go to factormeals.com/SOS50 and use code SOS50 to get 50% off your first box and 2 free wellness shots per box while your subscription is active. That is code SOS50 at factormeals.com/SOS50 to get 50% off your first box and 2 free wellness shots per box while your subscription is active. Factor is a meal kit service. They send you ready-to-eat meals. They're easy to prepare. They showed up in a box with a bunch of high-quality ice packs. You put the meal kits in the fridge, and when you want food, you go to the fridge, pick up the food, you put it in the microwave, and in about 2-3 minutes later, you've got restaurant-quality food ready to go. It's never frozen. There's high-quality ingredients, and compared to all the other options you can have for a quick and easy meal, I would say this is absolutely the best. Also, I find this really interesting. There are so many different ways you can customize your order. Maybe you're on a diet. You're trying to cut calories. There are low-calorie options. Factor can meet you where you want to be. You can customize it however you want. Maybe you just want a good meal that doesn't take 30 minutes to an hour out of your life to prepare. Like for me, I'm insanely busy right now. I'm doing basically 3 jobs: podcast, HVAC, training for HVAC sales. I have no time. And so having a good meal ready to go in my fridge where all I got to do is pop it in the microwave, take 2 minutes, and it's bam, really good meal waiting for me right there. I love it. I've saved a lot of time. Factor's also cheaper for you than all the other options. You've got 50% off with code SOS50. And compared to takeout or delivery, another easy meal, guys, the prices are not good compared to Factor. Factor is much cheaper than delivery. And again, if you want a high quality meal quickly, I recommend Factor. Go to factormeals.com/SOS50 and use code SOS50 to get 50% off your first box and 2 free wellness shots per box while your subscription is active. That is code SOS50 at factormeals.com/SOS50 to get 50% off your first box with 2 free wellness shots per box while your subscription is active. Given the value and the quality of the ingredients, I think you'd be silly not to look into factormeals.com. All right, so Jason Kelce is kaput. He's out. Love him. One of my, man, the more I listen to Jason Kelce, man, one of my favorite NFL players of all time. What a role model, what a guy. He's up there with like Gardner Minshew and Tom Brady for me. Jalen Hurts is another one. Quality dudes who I find really inspiring and really, really like. Now, we got to talk about another player who, early on, this guy was a role model to me for sure, but the more time went on, the more I went cold on the guy, and I think he's a bit disingenuous, maybe inauthentic is a good word. The Denver Broncos have informed Russell Wilson that they will be releasing him after the start of the new league year on March 13th. So Russell Wilson is out in Denver. 2 years there, 1 year with Sean Payton, 1 year with Nathaniel Hackett. It did not work. They've cut him. And they're on the hook he's going to make $39 million next year to not play in Denver, which is a ton of money. And what's really crazy about Russell Wilson to me, go back, there's a video on YouTube, look up Russell Wilson, top 100 players, number 2. In 2020, Russell Wilson was voted the second best player in the entire NFL by his peers. It was him and Lamar. Lamar Jackson was 1. Russell Wilson was number 2. And the reason why Russell Wilson was voted the best player in football, or by many, here's a clip. In fact, take a listen to this clip. It's someone talking about Russell Wilson on the NFL Top 100. It is wild. Take a listen to this.
Top player in the league, Russell Wilson. And I don't think it's close.
He has everything. He got the strong arm, but he also got the touch. Reminds me a lot of Montana back in the day.
He's like a chicken in a chicken house, man. He just running. You know how people try to go catch chicken, man?
I don't know what to say about him, man. He's a complete player.
Russell Wilson was called the best player in the NFL, a complete player, like a chicken with his head cut off, hard to catch, compared to Joe Montana. The things people were saying about Russell Wilson a couple years ago were that of the best in the league. I mean, that's crazy. The way Russell Wilson was talked about was that he was a future Hall of Fame quarterback. And what's crazy is that now, just a few years later, basically 2 years removed from that, I guess it's, 2024 now, so 3 seasons later, Russell Wilson is now out of a job, cut by his team, and viewed as a bad quarterback that not very many people want. In 2020, if Russell Wilson hit the open market, everyone would want him. He went to Denver, wasted a year with Nathaniel Hackett, which, by the way, the Russell Wilson-Nathaniel Hackett thing always bothered me. Russell Wilson, so let me be clear. Nathaniel Hackett was brought in to bring Aaron Rodgers to Denver. It didn't happen. So he was a quarterback with a coach who wasn't really brought in to coach him. They didn't work well together, Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson. Sean Payton comes in. Sean Payton strong arms everything. He wants a lot of control. Russell Wilson and him didn't seem to vibe personality-wise. It's really sad. Russell Wilson's a player who, the more football he played, the worse of an argument he had for the Hall of Fame. It's like if he'd retired 3 years ago, he probably would be still viewed as one of the best quarterbacks ever and potentially a Hall of Fame quarterback. But because he kept playing in sometimes a bad situation, sometimes not, his standing, the way he's viewed, got worse and worse and worse. Again, he was once viewed as, by many people, the best player in the entire NFL. And the more he played, he was talked about as unguardable. You couldn't catch him. Russell Wilson played himself out of the Hall of Fame, which is wild and sad and disappointing. And what really stands out, the reason why Russell Wilson was once viewed as such a great player was his ability to run around and make plays outside of the pocket. And as that skill set went away for him, his legs broke down, he had injuries, he wasn't the same. And Russell Wilson has not been able to win from the pocket without his ability to kind of play like Houdini and escape the pass rush and make crazy plays to extend things and get away from a sack. It's really sad to me. Now, the other part of Russell Wilson that has to be talked about, though, for sure. His legs went away, not the same athlete, all that stuff. I think Russell Wilson comes across as a bit disingenuous. It really bothers me the way he talks. He always is trying to say the right thing, which is not a bad quality. The intention is there to do right. But he says really, really corny stuff that comes across as totally fake and inauthentic and not accurate. Like he recently said he wants to win 2 Super Bowls in the next 5 years, which, what does that mean? You know, like, oh, okay, Russ, like you're thinking Super Bowls. I get that you're trying to send the right message. You're working hard, trying to win all that stuff, but how about a playoff game? How about a year with one team where you do well and maybe they want to keep you at the end of it? That's maybe a good starting point. And Russell Wilson, to me, feels a bit detached from reality. He's insanely wealthy. He, I think, might be a bit delusional about his standing in the league and how good he really actually is. And it's really disappointing because I think early on in his career, he was so humble. He was so aware of himself and it seemed like he fit the bill so well. But as things, fell apart in Seattle, personalities clashed. Russ, again, played himself out of the NFL Hall of Fame, basically, in my opinion, which is a really, really crazy, sad thing to be able to say. Now, the question is, where is Russell Wilson going to go? To me, there's basically two options. You've got Pittsburgh and Atlanta. Now, ironically, if you talk about Justin Fields, the current Bears quarterback, who I believe Justin Fields is going to get replaced by Caleb Williams. The Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. So that means Justin Fields is going to be on the trading block. Pittsburgh or Atlanta are the two landing spots probably for Justin Fields. The other teams that might maybe take a quarterback, we're talking the Raiders, the Giants, and Tennessee potentially. I think the only teams that are actually interested in Russell Wilson are Pittsburgh and Atlanta. It's a small market. Not a lot of people want him. Good news is Denver's paying the majority of his salary. So you can get Russell Wilson on the cheap, and Denver's going to pay for it, which is interesting and kind of cool. But I think Pittsburgh is the best landing spot for Russell Wilson. They've got Kenny Pickett. They've got Arthur Smith, who I don't love at offensive coordinator, but I think Russ playing for Mike Tomlin, that culture, that environment would be really good for him. Russ in Atlanta, it's also interesting, but I want to see Atlanta go in a different direction, get a younger quarterback. Frankly, I want to see Justin Fields in Atlanta. I think that would be, it's too obvious. That would be so much fun to see. So I just want to acknowledge, Russell Wilson has fallen so far. It's so sad. Once viewed as, by some people, the very best player in the entire NFL. Now, no longer doesn't have a job, but he also isn't viewed as a top quarterback in the league at all, and no longer Hall of Famer. His reputation is ruined by the last 2 years he just spent in Denver. 1 year with Nathaniel Hackett as head coach, 1 year with Sean Payton as head coach. And, oh boy, it's disappointing. It's sad. It's scary. It's a player I loved who really steadily declined, both in the way he talked about the game and his corniness level went up, but his ability on the field went down. And I find that a really, really sad story. Russell Wilson, a guy who doesn't seem like a bad human, just a guy who is always playing the PR game. Everything he says has an angle, has a reason, has a purpose. He comes across as super inauthentic, which I find really sad. And I'm fascinated with the future for Russell Wilson is going to be. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. Probably Pittsburgh, but oh boy, man, I really just. Well, what's really crazy too is Russ very obviously thought Denver was going to work. He got a gigantic mansion in the Cherry something neighborhood, whatever Cherry address neighborhood there is near Denver. He bought a massive house. He thought he was going to be there for a long, long time. And the Denver dream for Russell Wilson has ended. The question is what's next for the Broncos. I would imagine they're going to draft a quarterback in this year's draft. And, man, it's a sad, sad reality today in Denver as Russ is now out. And that massive trade, they gave up a bunch of first-round picks. They did a lot to try to bring Russell Wilson into Denver. They gave him a gigantic contract extension. Frankly, it didn't work, which is very, very, very sad. All right, we do have some news. One more thing I want to talk about. The Buffalo Bills lost two key players on their defense. Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer got cut by Buffalo. And I want to echo something I've said for a long, long time, which is that last year during the season, I kept saying, hey, this current group in Buffalo, this is the end of it. They're not going to win a Super Bowl together. And if they don't, they're gonna get separated and blown up. That's exactly what happened. Tre'Davious White is gone. Jordan Poyer is gone. All these great players, that great defense they built around those guys, it's also going to be gone. And it's sad. It's unfortunate. I'm really rooting for them. But I'm also very, very deeply concerned about Russell Wilson and about the Buffalo Bills, their defense, and the future for them. I think we're kind of entering a rebuilding phase for Buffalo. Whether they're aware of it or not, I don't see Buffalo as a Super Bowl contender next year. And, man, it's sad. Here's another sad story. Here, I know it's sad. Ironic sad is a funny thing to say there because he's getting paid a ton of money. But Tampa Bay gave Mike Evans, their receiver, a 2-year, $52 million contract, which face value, that's incredible. It's a ton of money, good for him, but he's made his money. What I find sad is I wanted to see Mike Evans playing in a different uniform next year, whether that would be Kansas City or New York with the Jets or the Rams and Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. I don't really care. The team that drew me the most was Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. I wanted to see Mike Evans throwing to Patrick Mahomes every single game as I hit my microphone. He got a 2-year, $52 million deal. Great for him. Mike Evans is getting paid. That's awesome. But I wanted to see him go to a team where he had a chance at a Super Bowl. I don't think Tampa is that spot. So I saw the Mike Evans getting signed by Tampa news and immediately got very, very sad and very, very disappointed. All right, let's end today's show, a short one today, with questions from Patreon. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/Zach Schaumler, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. It's $1 a month. You can donate more if you want to. Please do. It literally does pay my rent. But $1 a month gives you access to submit questions on Patreon. Now, Funky Kong writes in and says, who is a quarterback you think of when you think of someone immensely talented, but never got to reach their full potential due to an injury or being held back by a bad franchise? Side note, if you ever find yourself in Jersey, hit me up. We'll enjoy some devil's lettuce and play video games. I gotta warn you, though, I'm pretty good. I was in a few. What's that a reference to? I'm pretty good, I was in a few. In a few video games? That can't be real. What's going on there? I don't know what to make of that. Funky Kong? Oh, is that because it's the name. Funky Kong is a video game reference. So he's referencing his own username, which is fun and wacky and whatever, kind of fun. Like the obvious quarterback that comes to mind when you talk about someone who got hurt and it ruined their career was RG3, who was having an incredible rookie year and then got hurt in Washington, never got paid, never really recovered fully. That's one answer. But the guy that actually, to me, is even a better answer than, what is the name of the guy I just said? Why can't, suddenly, I don't have his name. The name of RG3. Jeez. I'm tired, y'all. I'm doing the best I can. The name that comes to mind, though, the quarterback who I thought was really talented and had a lot of promise, who never lived up to it because of an injury, is Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford was drafted by the Rams, looked really good when he played, but kept getting hurt. Then he went to Minnesota, also did really well, but then got hurt again. He never was healthy his entire NFL career. And if Sam Bradford had stayed healthy, I really believe he was a franchise quarterback. He was so talented and gifted, but injuries kept Sam Bradford from ever reaching his potential as a player. And that's just painfully, painfully disappointing from an owner's perspective in the NFL. All right, Lionart writes in. Lionart says, one of my friends tried to make the case that an NFL team from 10 to 15 years ago would probably beat an NFL team from today based on average teams and players in 2024 having a way worse fundamentals than in the past. So he's saying teams today have way worse fundamentals than teams from 10 to 15 years ago. Lionart continues and says, I don't know if it's so cut and dry as my friend made it out to be, but I definitely agree with him on some level. Tackling, for example, is definitely worse today than it was 10 years ago. You've said a number of times on the show, but that far too many young quarterbacks have no idea how to beat a blitz. If we were comparing the 80s to now, you could chalk it up to a change in rules, but the rules really weren't that different 10 years ago. Certain positions clearly aren't worse than they used to be. Edge rushers, for example, seem to be getting better and better with every draft class. The top players in the NFL clearly don't have a problem with fundamentals, but I'm referring to the average players. The average linebacker of today versus the average linebacker of 2010. Do you think fundamentals in the NFL are getting worse? Why or why not? Fundamentals. I think they are getting worse, clearly. Practice time is lessened and players have less agency, or maybe actually players have more agency, they have less time to train in college football. So it's just really, really hurting every level of college football and the NFL football game. And so are teams less talented than they used to be? No. I think actually players are more talented, but the rules are different. The rules protecting players, you may not like them, but they are different than they were 10 years ago. There's certain hits you can't even have that you could have 10 years ago. But also, practice time is lower, so I do buy into the idea that maybe technique isn't as good as it used to be in the NFL in 10 to 15 years ago rather than just last year in 2023. All right, now Kenny writes in. Kenny says, with the NFL season finally over, who do you think will be this year's Hard Knocks? I read an article saying that the most likely candidates will either be Chicago, Denver, or New Orleans. Who do you think they should focus on this year's Hard Knocks? As always, keep up the sexy work, Kenny. All right, to me, I want to see Chicago. The Chicago Bears doing Hard Knocks would be really fun. They're going to draft Caleb Williams, I would believe. They're a historic franchise. Insight into that would be really interesting. And I want to watch Caleb Williams in training camp. I want to see him live, in person, up front, with HBO cameras following him. That sounds really compelling and really interesting and really, really fun to watch. So Chicago would be really interesting. I think Denver would be interesting. Sean Payton or New Orleans. I'm not as interested in New Orleans with Derek Carr and Dennis Allen. And Sean Payton's, I don't know. I'd love to see Sean Payton do it, but I just think Caleb Williams is a draw. Would you rather watch Caleb Williams do Hard Knocks or Sean Payton in Denver, the coach, or the quarterback? I want to see the young rookie quarterback in Hard Knocks way more than I want to watch Sean Payton, the head coach, work with Hard Knocks in Denver. Justin writes in. Justin says, Zach, I wanted to share a story of something odd but interesting that I encountered the other day. My partner and I were in downtown Dallas celebrating our 5-year anniversary. Congratulations this past weekend. On Saturday, we went to the Perot Museum of Nature and Science. It was pretty cool, but there was one particular memory of the museum that has stuck out to me. On the very bottom floor, there was a sports portion of the museum. At the entrance, they had a 20-yard dash racing machine where you could select an opponent to face against that got projected onto the wall. I first noticed it because I saw several kids racing against a fucking cheetah and getting absolutely cooked. I'm not even shitting you. The timer would hit 0 and the cheetah would already be halfway down the 20-yard dash while the other kids were still at the start. What really blew my mind, however, was that you could race against Patrick Mahomes. So you bet my 25-year-old ass walked up to the machine and raced against Mahomes, and to my surprise, I smoked him. So I can officially say that I am faster than a projection of Patrick Mahomes. However, I still have yet to win 3 Super Bowls, so I'll need to get onto that. Cheers, Justin. I don't know how to react to that, but I find it really, really interesting. You know, I just, okay, wow, you can race Patrick Mahomes, and apparently normal people can beat him, theoretically. The cheetah doesn't surprise me at all. Cheetahs are, like, man. But why isn't someone, I wonder, I have more questions about the machine, Justin. Like, what about Travis Kelce? What about Tyreek Hill? Or is anyone, Travis Kelce is a bad example. Is anyone fast on this machine? Like, you know, how about instead of a real cheetah, how about Tyreek Hill? What happens when you race Tyreek Hill? How much faster is Tyreek Hill than a normal person? I'd love to see that projected on the wall and see what happens there. But either way, interesting little tidbit of information. I didn't know that at all, and thanks for sharing, Justin. Connor writes in, says, Mr. Schaumler, I realize now I should have made my debut simply thanking you for all that you do. I'm a huge football fan, and I'm going to be a football coach. You have helped me learn a lot about the game and have helped me know what I should teach my players. This isn't a question, and I don't expect you to read this on the show, but just want you to know how thankful I am for your knowledge and awesome personality. I have loved listening to your show for a while now. I should have subscribed on Patreon much earlier, and one day, when I'm a football coach, I will certainly keep you in mind if I ever need a quarterback coach. Connor, thank you, man. I'm rooting for you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. You know, it's interesting. I'm having a hard time reading this. I drank a lot of coffee. This little cup I have in front of me was once full of coffee. I drank the coffee. I rinsed it out, put water in it. The water still tastes like coffee. I should have actually washed it instead of just rinsing it out. And I don't know what to make of this strangely coffee tasting water. The coffee residue watery thing is a weird one. And let me know, has anyone ever had water in a mug after having coffee in it? Is that a thing people do? Because it's been a shocking flavor twist that I don't necessarily love. Last question of the day. It's from just another Florida man. Florida man says, so I should have mentioned this when you actually asked about Super Bowl spreads, but it occurred to me that we actually did do something interesting. As a direct response to a bunch of my friends and I being in a fantasy football league together, a handful of our wives have started up the Charcuterie League. Each one makes a small charcuterie board for the Super Bowl, and at the end of the game, everyone at the party votes on the winning board. You can't vote for your own or your spouse's. I thought you might find it interesting, even if I'm hella late on actually telling you this. LOL, cheers. That's awesome. What a way to make the Super Bowl party interesting. I know it's now March 8th. The Super Bowl has come and gone, almost a month ago now. But having like a little sideshow food competition, who could make the best charcuterie board, that is a great way to make a Super Bowl party interesting. Florida man, you're onto something. That's a great strategy. Great plan. Great idea. And I want to hear more of that. So that'd just be a fun party in general. Who needs a Super Bowl for that? How about you just have a charcuterie board party and see who can bring the best charcuterie board? I love that. And then what's even funner, like more fun, is if you can, some are cheese, some are candy, some are other things, like other ways you can make a charcuterie board that isn't the traditional crackers and cheese and maybe berries and veggies. You know what I mean? Like, what else can you throw on a charcuterie board? Can you make different themed? I've seen candy themed charcuterie boards they're just a collection of candy in a fun little organizational way. I love that idea, man. I love having a party that's a food competition. Like, what a fun way to have a party. I really love that idea. And, man, I want to do it with my friends now. I want to have a charcuterie board party. I don't need a Super Bowl to do that. That just sounds like a fun time. Well, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. I got to kind of pack up and go to work now. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm working on predictions versus reality. I've been watching film very sparingly. I admittedly don't have a lot of time right now. I really am stretched very thin. And soon, very soon, I'll be doing full-time sales, and actually will have way more free time. But right now, I'm hourly working, installing air conditioning units, studying in my free time, trying to do the podcast best I can. And this one's very late. I usually record on Tuesdays. It's now Friday morning at 3:45 in the morning. So I'm doing my best. I'm tired and I'm trying to figure it out. And next week we'll have a good I've got a great show planned for next week. I hope you enjoy it. But I really wanted to take today to really appreciate Jason Kelce more than anything and talk a little bit about Russell Wilson, how far he's fallen, how sad that is. And guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Until next time, bam, we are done.